Hi, in this video, this is a part 2 for solving rational equations. And we're going to use the same strategy that we did in the first video, and we're going to solve this equation. Solve x over 2 minus 4 over x equal to negative 7 halves. So the first thing we want to do is notice here that the lowest common denominator is 2x. Okay, so we multiply every term, so let's do that. We're going to record this. We'll multiply every term by 2x. Okay, so I'm going to just write the problem again. X over 2 minus, I'm going to leave myself some space, equal negative 7 over 2. And just so I can keep track, so I have to multiply everything by 2x. And remember, you could also think of it as 2x over 1 if that helps you. So we'll write it that way this time. Okay, now here's where, if we did this right, when we're done with this next step, there should be no fractions left. So let's see what happens here. Notice, in the first term, first product, I have a 2 here and a 2 here. Those common factors will reduce. Here I have, in the second term, I have an x and an x, so those will reduce. And in the last, on the right-hand side, I have a 2 and a 2. Those two those two 2's will also reduce. So now, if I rewrite what I've got, I have an x times an x, which is an x squared, minus, let's see it, minus 2 times 4 is going to be minus an 8, equals, 2's have canceled, a minus 7x. Oh, now notice, here, we're going to solve a quadratic. Now we did this earlier. Let me erase that. Quadratic. And we did this, solve a quadratic by setting equation to 0. Setting equation to 0. So, and one of our strategies was to keep the squared term positive. You don't have to, but it sure is cleaner. So what I would do is add a 7x to the right-hand side, and so it's going to fit in between here, so I'll put it right there. Now I have an x squared plus a 7x minus an 8 equals 0. So I move the screen up. And what happens now is we need to play the game. So if I play the game, I have implied 1, so like 1 times negative 8, and the 7 goes in the bottom position. So it looks like a positive 8 and a negative 1 would do the trick. Let's try. X squared plus 8x minus 1x minus 8 still equals 0. Now I factor by grouping, so I have x times x plus 8. And let's see, then I factored a negative 1. And I'm left with an x plus 8 equals 0. And then I have a greatest common factor of x plus 8, x minus 1 equals 0. Now we set each factor to 0. Write that down, set each factor to 0. So either x plus 8 is 0, or x minus 1 is equal to 0. Subtract 8, and I have x equals negative 8. And here, if I add 1 to both sides, x equals 1. Okay, now, remember, we need to check the domain of our equation. And the only problem if in our equation is if x is 0, it'd be right there. So let's make a note of that, so that our domain is the set of all x such that x does not equal 0. This is our domain. And then we've got two answers. And like always, you should check if both of them really work. Check answers. Check answers in the original equation. And the original equation, if you recall, is x over 2 minus 4 over x, 4 over x equals minus 7 halves. Well, let's check and see if this really works. So we'll start with the negative 8. So if I said x is negative 8, then we have a negative 8 over 2 minus, we have 4 over negative 8. We want to see if this equals negative 7 halves. So let's see here. Oh, and easy. This is kind of sneaky because here we've got these two minuses. That's really a plus. And notice that on the right-hand side I have a fraction in halves. And so now I have plus 4 over 8. We want to see if we're really just question, is this true? But remember that 4 over 8 is just a half. Negative, and then we can just go negative 8 plus 1 over 2, and sure enough, that does equal negative 7 over 2. Now we need to check our second result as well, so we're going to check when x is, so this one worked, x equals 1. Then what we have is we have 1 over 2 minus 4 over 1. We want to see if this is really equal to negative 7 over 2. Okay, I need a common denominator, so I'm going to have 1 half minus, let's make this 8 over 2. This equals negative 7 over 2. I want to see if this is true. So this just becomes 1 minus 8 over 2, which, sure enough, that equals negative 7 over 2. And so that's how we solve this problem. Thanks for watching.